Mars, our neighboring world, is a harsh, lifeless desert of rock and ice. Orbiting the Sun at an average distance of 228 million kilometers, about 142 million miles, it's a frozen wasteland with a fragile atmosphere and frigid temperatures. Humanity has never walked on its rust-colored soil. Or have we? Mars is often viewed as the next milestone in space exploration. But some believe our connection to this distant world is far older and far stranger than anyone in the scientific community would care to admit. Could it be that Mars has already been visited, not just by probes, but by ancient civilizations? Could the red planet have once hosted intelligent life? Or perhaps, is it even our true home? Let's go back to the 1970s, when our robotic eyes first turned toward Mars. In 1976, NASA's Viking 1 orbiter reached Martian orbit with one of its key objectives being to capture images of the Martian surface. These photographs would be analyzed back on Earth to determine safe landing zones for its counterpart, Viking 2. Late that July, Viking 1 sent back a series of images, 18 in total, focusing on a region in the northern hemisphere of Mars that had not yet been closely examined. At first glance, these black and white snapshots revealed a rugged but otherwise unremarkable plateau, just another barren Martian landscape. But then, scientists noticed something impossible. In a stretch of terrain roughly 65 square kilometers wide, or 25 square miles, one formation stood out, a feature that looked remarkably like a human face staring back at the camera. Framed by other odd-looking formations, the face was haunting in its symmetry. Scientists reviewing the images were initially baffled. But after further examination, NASA attributed the strange formation to a trick of light and shadow, an illusion. They labeled it pareidolia, the brain's tendency to see familiar shapes, especially faces, in random patterns. Nevertheless, the images were released to the public, and that's when the story exploded. The idea of Martians had been fueling science fiction stories for over a century. So when the public saw this photo, imaginations ran wild. Beyond the face, others pointed to nearby shapes in the image, a supposed city, a pentagonal pyramid, and more. Believers claimed these structures were too geometric, too symmetrical to be natural. They argued that only intelligent design could account for such formations. Skeptics dismissed the claims, insisting that geological processes, erosion, and coincidence were enough to explain it all. Still, the region where the face was found earned a name that would become iconic in fringe science and UFO lore: Cydonia. This mysterious zone inspired countless books, documentaries, and discussions about the possibility of lost Martian civilizations. But as time passed, more advanced cameras and higher-resolution images arrived, thanks to both NASA and the European Space Agency. These newer images revealed the same structures from multiple angles and under different lighting conditions. With clearer detail, the famous face appeared far less convincing. Now seen as a flat-topped mesa, eroded and rugged, but thoroughly natural. NASA doubled down on the explanation. The face was simply a rock formation. Under the right light and shadows, it looked uncanny. But ultimately, it was just a trick of perception. Still, not everyone was convinced. Many who believed in the ancient Martian civilization theory were unswayed. To them, these new images were suspect, possibly even doctored. They argued that NASA and other space agencies were actively covering up the truth. For a time, this theory quieted down, until 2004. That's when things got very strange again. NASA's Spirit and Opportunity rovers touched down on Mars and began transmitting thousands of high-definition images. Most showed barren, dusty rocks. But then, one image stood out. Captured by Spirit in 2005, the image sat in NASA's archives for nearly a decade with little fanfare. But in 2014, amateur researchers digging through the public database noticed something odd. Buried halfway in Martian soil, one rock bore an eerie resemblance to a human skull, hollowed eyes, a nose bridge, and even a jawline. Was it just another oddly shaped stone? Maybe, but even seasoned skeptics had to admit the similarity was striking. And that wasn't the only anomaly. Spirit continued sending back pictures, many showing stones that looked like elongated skulls. These resembled the deformed craniums found in ancient Central and South American civilizations, where cultures like the Maya practiced cranial shaping in newborns. Coincidence? Maybe not. Years later, NASA's Curiosity rover also began transmitting similar images, some even clearer than spirits, rocks that resembled bones, formations that looked like fragments of statues. Point one in particular looked uncannily like a femur, a thigh bone, resting on the red surface. Another appeared to be the broken head of a statue, gazing skyward. These images sent conspiracy theorists into overdrive. Had there once been intelligent life on Mars? Or had Earth's ancient civilizations somehow made contact, or even migrated, to the Red Planet? Some researchers pointed to ancient cave paintings and medieval artworks as evidence of long-forgotten encounters with beings from beyond Earth. They cited strange shapes in the sky, humanoid figures with unusual features, and cryptic symbols as potential depictions of extraterrestrial contact. Skeptics, of course, scoffed at such theories, writing them off as imagination, misinterpretation, or artistic license. But even the skeptics began to raise eyebrows when the story started. Coming from people with military backgrounds. In July 2014, an ex-US Marine, using the pseudonym Captain K, claimed something that sounded straight out of a sci-fi movie. That he told the media that for 17 of his 20 years in service, he was stationed on Mars. According to him, his role was to protect 5 human colonies from indigenous Martian life forms. Astonishing? Yes. Impossible? Maybe. But K wasn't alone. 3 other alleged whistleblowers, Michael Relf, Corey Goode, and Randy Kramer, all stepped forward with similar claims. They spoke of secret space programs, colonies on the Moon and Mars, and even interplanetary warfare. Most people laughed off their accounts. But to believers, it all fit together perfectly. Even Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, great-granddaughter of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, claimed she was approached for recruitment into a Martian colonization program, allegedly headed by none other than Dr. Hal Puthoff, a real-life physicist involved in classified research. These shocking claims only intensified interest in the photographs being sent back by NASA's rovers. Images from Mars were now being dissected by enthusiasts around the globe, looking for signs of anything unnatural. They pointed to numerous examples. The Martian Sasquatch. One image showed what appeared to be a tall, upright figure descending a slope. Though grainy, its shape and shadow suggested something bipedal. Its coloration didn't match nearby rocks. The Guardian. Another shot captured a tiny figure, arms raised, seemingly running toward the rover, perhaps defending territory. Behind it, a faint trail of dust or mist appeared to follow. The Watcher, perhaps the most chilling, a photo taken at sunset showing a shadowy form standing on a distant ridge. The figure looked humanoid and appeared to be watching the rover. A glimmer of light in the background sparked even more debate. Was it a reflection? A geyser? A light source? NASA had never observed an active geyser on Mars. And yet, there it was. Finally, there were the supposed UFOs. One image clearly showed a saucer-like object flying across the sky in the afternoon light. Unlike blurry Earth-based UFO photos, this one couldn't be dismissed as a bird or insect. There are more than a few such images, which makes the possibility of them being camera glitches or isolated anomalies seem less likely. Could all of these be coincidences? Rock formations? Glitches? Perhaps. Or do these images suggest something deeper? That maybe, just maybe, the rovers are not alone on Mars. That perhaps they have captured photographs of bones, real bones, lying on alien soil? Unfortunately, no photograph so far has provided irrefutable proof. What many claim to be skeletal remains or artifacts could very well be oddly shaped stones. The human brain is wired to recognize patterns, especially faces and figures, in randomness. That's why we see dragons in clouds and faces in tree bark. It's called pareidolia, and it's the most widely accepted explanation for these Martian anomalies. And what about the stories of Captain K, Corey Goode, and the rest? Fascinating, yes. But so far, none of these individuals has provided concrete evidence to back up their astonishing claims. Until they do, mainstream science remains unmoved. Still, even among skeptics, the fascination persists. The idea that humans may have once traveled to Mars or come from there is compelling. Our solar system is unimaginably old, and the possibility of alien life, even fossilized, remains open. One day, perhaps, we'll discover the remnants of an ancient life form, buried beneath Martian dust, or hidden in some cave yet unseen. And maybe, just maybe, those strange formations we now dismiss are more than just rocks. Until then, we remain curious that we keep watching. We keep wondering, and we stay open to the possibility that the truth is out there, waiting on Mars.